Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, my lovelies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I am so happy you found me. I do so hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. Today is True Love Tuesday. We are talking about Michael J. Fox and Tracy Pollan today. Such a cute love story. Before we get started, a very special, very warm welcome to any of those that are new to my channel. I am so incredibly happy that you are here. If you enjoy the content, I do so hope that you will mash that thumbs up button. I hope that you will subscribe if you have not already. And I hope that you will ring my bell, turn on your notifications, so that way, next time I upload a video, you can come right back here and we can hang out together again. Also, I already have my eye makeup done. Y'all, I am literally incapable of doing my eye makeup and telling you a story at the same time. Concentration is just not there for me. However, I did make sure to film a TikTok on today's eye look if you are interested. I used the ABH Norvina Volume 3, such a beautiful palette. I will make sure to have the link for the TikTok as well as all of my other socials listed in the description box below. Guys, if you are not following me on all my other socials, you definitely should go do that, especially over on TikTok. I post fun content literally every single day. And if you're following me everywhere, you don't have to worry about missing a single moment of it. I will also list a full list a full product list of everything that I'm going to use in today's video. I don't usually talk too awful much about the makeup that I'm using, but I'll make sure to put everything in the description box below. And of course, if you have any questions about what I used or how I used it, all you have to do is leave me a comment and I will get back to you. All right, my lovelies. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the love story. So Michael J. Fox and Tracy Pollan. What a combination. And it almost didn't happen. Now, if you've never been here for True Love Tuesday, I sit here, I do my makeup, and I tell you an epic love story along the way. If you guys see me looking over in this direction, it is because I am looking at my notes. Y'all, there are a ton for today's video. I'm going to go ahead and assume it's going to be a pretty long one. So sit back, get comfy, get cozy, get you a big old glass of something to drink, a cup of ice cold sweet tea, a glass of coffee. Is it a cup of coffee and a glass of sweet tea? Either way, get you something to drink, maybe even a snack, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I usually like to start talking about each half of the whole first, individually, and then get into their love story together. I like to give you as comprehensive of a picture as I possibly can. So we're going to dive into backstory and all of that good stuff. We're going to start with Mr. Michael, then we will work our way into Tracy, and then them as a couple. So Michael J. Fox was born Michael Andrew Fox on June 9th, 1961. Who knew that his middle initial is not actually J? We'll get to that in just a second. Best known roles include, of course, Family Ties. He also has the Back to the Future franchise. I think there's 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure. There might be a 4th one, but I'm not exactly certain. A ton of those, though. Doc Hollywood, Teen Wolf. There's also Bright Lights, Big City. Like, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He actually has had a pretty prolific career. He was also the voice of Stuart Little. If you didn't know, Stuart Little is quite possibly one of my very favorite movies from my childhood. I remember watching that movie and just loving it so much. It's such a good movie. Also, I'm just in love with Geena Davis. I think she is literally just the best. Love her so much. But that movie was fantastic. Had no idea that Michael J. Fox voiced Stuart Little, so the more you know. He was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, so he is in fact a Canadian. He was born the son of Phyllis Piper and William Fox. His mother was a payroll clerk and aspiring actress, while his father was a 25-year veteran of the Canadian Forces, as well as a police dispatcher. So once he retired from the services, from the force, I guess, he became part of the police force, was a police dispatcher. They moved pretty frequently when he was younger due to his father's career, but eventually they settled in Burnaby, which is kind of like on the outskirts of Vancouver, so pretty much Vancouver, when his father retired in 1971. After that, Michael found his love of acting. He found his love of acting at the age of 16 and starred in the Canadian television series Leo and Me. Have no freaking idea what that is, but apparently it's what jump-started his career, and after that, things took off pretty quickly. Now, when it comes to his career, he lived pretty much a charmed life. Like some of the people that we've spoken about, like it took them years to really break in and find that pivotal role that kind of catapulted them into Hollywood stardom. But for Michael, everything seemed to just come so easily. And I keep thinking, like, just charmed, right? This man is just freaking lucky. Everything he ever kind of like wanted or went for just kind of came so easily for him. And we love that for him because he's actually a pretty nice freaking guy. Though growing into that niceness kind of took him a little bit. As with anyone, when you have that much success, especially at such a young age, it is and can be pretty difficult not to be pretty full of yourself, and Michael definitely was. He pretty much thought that his stuff didn't stink, and kind of had, especially in his earlier career, kind of had a little bit of a reputation for being cocky and slightly arrogant. Now, the show was fairly successful. Leo and Me, his first kind of breakout role, was pretty successful, but Michael decided to pack his bags and take his chances in Hollywood. So he packs up at the age of 18. Yeah, he packs up at the age of 18 and like hightails it to the USA, to Los Angeles, California, in the year 1979. He was discovered pretty quickly after setting foot on American soil. He actually kind of like just got off the plane and was almost instantly discovered by American producer, what was his name? Ronald Shedlow. And very quickly after that, he made his American TV debut in the made-for-TV movie called Letters from Frank. Now, I have no idea what that is either, but apparently it was pretty good news for him because after that, his career kind of took off. At this point, he was going by the name of Michael Fox. There's no J there yet. And when you become a certified actor, things like that, I guess you have to join the, what is it? You have to join the Screen Actors Guild. So, especially, it's kind of like a union, I guess, for actors. So he goes and he fills out his application to join the Film Actors Guild. And apparently, there is a policy that no two actors can work under the same stage name. So when he goes and he fills out his application, he uses Michael Fox. Well, apparently, there was already a man practicing under that name. He was apparently a character actor, and his stage name was Michael Fox. So Michael has to sit there and he has to figure out what he wants his stage name to be. And he's thinking about it, and you know, his middle initial is A because his middle name is Andrew. So he's like Andy Fox, Andrew Fox, Michael A. Fox. And at this point in time, the word foxy was just being like, it was just getting started as a, it's like a slang for like attractive, and he didn't want to come off cocky and things like that. This was back before he got real cocky and arrogant. He was still very humble at this time, and he didn't want to be like, oh, Michael's a fox. You know what I mean? So then he gets to thinking about some of his favorite actors and their names, things like that. And then he comes up with Michael J. Pollard, who is one of his very favorite, Pollard? Yeah, Pollard. Michael J. Pollard, who was one of his favorite character actors. And he was like, I like the J, it sounds nice. So I was like, okay, I'm Michael J. Fox now. Now, later on in his career, when people asked him what the J stood for, he would usually tell them that it either stood for genuine or genius. Now, this is when his head started to get just a little bit big. And so, yes, of course, the J is for genius because he's a genius actor. Things like that. We still love him, though. Anyway, after that, he is henceforth known as Mr. Michael J. Fox. All in all, throughout his career, he has been in at least 34 different movies and TV shows, things like that. He actually, like I said, has had quite a prolific career. He has won multiple different awards, and, you know, he's been working steadily. He worked very, very steadily for decades in Hollywood. So we love Michael J. Fox. He very much endeared himself to the world, the American public specifically, but the world in general. When he played, you know, his part, what was his name? Marty in Back to the Future. It was like a rocket taking off. And after that role, especially Family Ties is what really kicked off his career in general. After Family Ties, he was just pretty much known as a good kid. And then he was in Back to the Future, and that really just solidified things for him. And then after that, he was pretty much Hollywood's golden boy. He really couldn't do any wrong. Now, when you get to Michael's list of past paramours and romantic escapades, you would think, especially since he's a pretty good looking guy, right? And he was incredibly popular, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. You would think that his list of past paramours is going to be fairly prolific. However, it seems like Michael is actually, you know, he's pretty relationship minded. Now, he was known as a little bit of a party boy, but not so much a ladies' man. Like, he never had problems with female attention, things like that, and he never did stay single for very long at all. But he was a little bit selective in the people that he chose to date and kind of like hang around with. Also, it seems to me, like I said, he definitely prefers to be in a relationship as opposed to just kind of like going out and having all kinds of one-night stands and random hookups. So, in the late 80s, Michael was one of Hollywood's most eligible bachelors. He is at the prime. He's in the prime of his career. He's getting really amazing roles. Again, he's Hollywood's little golden boy. Everybody loves him. So, I mean, he just kind of like, he dated around a little bit. So, the first known kind of like hookup that we are aware of, because he is a fairly private person. We love a man that doesn't kiss and tell. And he is not the one who goes about bragging about his escapades, right? So Rebecca de Mornay is the first known hookup. Now, this is a rumor. This has not been substantiated by anyone, really. So we're not really exactly positive of when this happened, or, you know, how long it took, you know, they hung out for, things like that. We just know that they were kind of an item. They were spotted around together a few times. They were at nightclubs at the same times, left at the same time, that kind of thing. So we're assuming, we're putting two and two together and thinking that they had a little bit of a fling in the early 80s. Next up, we have a woman by the name of Carla Michelle. Now, this was Michael's very first long-term romance. Again, very, very private about the whole thing. So very little to none information is really known about their relationship. However, we do know that they dated from 1976 to 1982, though, again, weirdly, there are no pictures of them together. There is no information. Y'all, and I absolutely scoured. I scoured the internet trying to find any kind of picture, something that I could show you guys, and every picture that kept popping up, I would think, oh, this is her, and it would be somebody different. So I don't have a picture to show you. We don't know what she looks like, but we do know that she was his first real romance, and this really happened before he got super big in Hollywood. Right around the time that they broke up is when he got the role on Family Ties, so he dated her right before he really hit it big in Hollywood. After he breaks up with Carla, he gets the role on Family Ties, and he began dating his co-star Nancy McKeon almost immediately after starting. Now, him and Nancy were actually together for a good long while. I want to say around 3 years. Yeah, they dated for nearly 3 years, from 1982 to 1985. They worked together on 2 separate projects, actually. So they worked together on Family Ties, and they also worked together on a movie called High School USA. They played love interests in both situations, and just had really great chemistry on screen with each other. Now, That, of course, didn't last forever. And then after he breaks up with Nancy, he has a fairly short, very brief kind of dating period where he is with Sarah Jessica Parker. Now, this is before Sarah Jessica, of course, met Matthew Broderick. We've already talked about them a couple of weeks ago on True Love Tuesday. But he met her and dated her very briefly in 1984. They had fun together, but again, at that point, neither of them were really looking for anything serious. They just kind of like enjoyed each other's company and then went their own separate ways. Now, after he breaks up with Sarah Jessica, he then gets into another relationship, like a long-ish term relationship with a woman by the name of Carrie Michelson. Their romance only lasted for a little bit over a year, from 1985 to 1986. But again, it's another relationship. I genuinely think that he prefers the relationships to the flings. I just think he prefers having somebody to come home to. He enjoys having a partner. Now, after Carrie, he is, he has another fling, but this time it's with Jennifer Grey. And I feel like in the 80s and early 90s, late 80s, well, in the 80s basically, but I feel like anybody who was anybody dated freaking Jennifer Grey. It seems like she was linked to just about all of the heavy hitters. They were both pretty popular at the time. It was just kind of like common sense that they would link up at some point. Now, their relationship didn't last very, very long. They were only together for, I want to say 5 months. They were only together from January to May of 1986. After Jennifer, he has another short-term kind of fling / relationship, and that was with Susanna Hoffs. Now, he jumped right out of his fling with Jennifer into the fling with Susanna. So he left Jennifer at the beginning of May and then started with Susanna at the end of May. And they dated for 7 months. They dated from the end of May to November of 1986. And then very shortly after that, he met the love of his life, Tracy Pollan. When it comes to Michael and Tracy's relationship, Michael is most definitely the bigger name of the two. He definitely has more mainstream notoriety than she does, and because of that, information on her is just a little bit scarce. Now, I did kind of scrounge up just a little bit of information, but it's not a ton to work from. So we know that she was born Tracy Jo Pollan on June 22nd, 1960. We know that she is 1 year older than Michael. Her best known roles include Ellen Reed on Family Ties. She was also in Bright Lights, Big City with Michael, and then she was also first to die in the movie First to Die. She was born in Long Island, New York, to parents Corky and Stephen Pollan. She has one sibling, a brother, who I think an older brother, Michael Pollan, who is in the media. I think he's a journalist of some sort. She was raised in Woodbury, New York, and is from a Jewish family. That's pretty much the extent of it. Now, we also know that she is quite a spunky little thing. She is definitely a feisty little woman, and we love that. Now, when it comes to her previous paramours, other relationships, there is only one. Now, Tracy is very much a good girl. She did not go out and party. She was not a part of the Hollywood party scene at all whatsoever. She dated with intent, and she got it right pretty much the first time. Now, when she only has one real relationship, anything really noteworthy, before Michael, and that is with actor Kevin Bacon. Now, we also talked about Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick a couple of weeks ago here on True Love Tuesday, and their love story is just absolutely everything. I really, really enjoyed doing that True Love Tuesday. But before Kevin found Kyra, he was with Tracy. Now, Kevin and Tracy met while they were in an off-Broadway play together. They got cast. in the same play. I think it was a play called Album, something of the sort. And of course they played love interests in the play, and it rolled over into real life, as it very often does, and they very quickly jumped into a relationship together. Now, their relationship was actually very, very long term. They stayed together for a good long while. I want to say they were together for almost 8 years. So they met in 1980, and they were together for long enough to buy a home in Manhattan and a ranch in Connecticut together. Like, they were full on living together. They were life partners at that point in time. Now, when it comes down to it, the reason that they split, you know, it's just conjecture, because of course private people, really nobody knows exactly why they split up. But I think that it came down to commitment. I feel like Tracy was ready for the picket fence and, you know, the ring, and Kevin just wasn't quite there yet. And I believe he just wasn't quite there yet because he just knew that they weren't soulmates at that point, because right after he breaks up with Tracy, he finds Kira, and then of course they settle down and they become each other's forever. All in all, though, this is a really, really good thing for both Kevin and Tracy, because breaking up opened them up to find their real forever people. Though the breakup was really, really hard, it was rough on Tracy, of course. Like, she had just devoted the last 8 years of her life to this man, and then it just kind of felt like her sky was falling and her world was falling apart a little bit. But Michael was just kind of like waiting in the wings, because by this point, by the time they broke up, she was already working with Michael on Family Ties. So serendipity came into play, and everything really did work out just exactly the way that it was supposed to. Now that brings us into Michael and Tracy together. Now, Tracy and Michael met in 1985, and they met when Tracy was cast as Michael's love interest on season 4 of Family Ties. Now, at this point, things do not begin as, like, it doesn't begin as a romantic entanglement. Quite honestly, Tracy is not impressed with Michael at all whatsoever, on top of the fact that they're both seeing other people at this point in time. Tracy is still with Kevin, and then Michael is still with Nancy. So, like, you know, even though there's an attraction and there is pretty immediate and intense chemistry on screen, they keep things strictly platonic at this point in time. Now, Tracy was cast as Ellen Reed, who was the love interest of Michael, whose character was, I think it was Alex, something like that. And when it came to Tracy being cast in the role, Michael actually had quite a bit to say about it. He was instrumental in the process of picking out who his love interest would be, because of course he had to have some kind of chemistry with her, right? So there needed to be at least some small element of attraction or friendship, something like that, so that way when they were interacting together in front of the camera, it read as a believable kind of like relationship, right? So out of all of the people who read for the part of, what was her name? Ellen Reed. Out of all of the people who read for the part, Michael chose Tracy. And of course, on Michael's part, he is instantly and immediately attracted to her. He said about her from their reading, because of course they read their lines together, and he said that she had strength, like there was strength in her delivery, but she wasn't overbearing. Like, she wasn't going to take over the scene. She still was present without really kind of like taking any shine away from Michael. Now, we know at this point that Michael's head has gotten just a little bit big. He is a little bit arrogant at this point, and of course doesn't want anybody kind of outshining him in front of the camera. So of course Tracy was just enough, but not too much. Now, from the minute Tracy was cast and they started working together on set, Michael was pretty much enamored. Like, of course he was attracted to her physically, but there was also something that just kind of drew him to her. Now, she wasn't very interested at this point in time. She is head over heels in love with Kevin. Their relationship is going pretty strong at this point. Everything is great with her, so she's not even looking twice at Michael. But Michael finds himself somehow just completely, he's almost besotted, he's almost mesmerized by her. Now, he said that she was very much like her character in real life. And the character of, what was her name? Ellen? What was her name? Yeah. The character of Ellen was sweet and kind and thoughtful. And he said that Tracy had all of those same attributes, but even more so. And he would see her, they would be on set, they would have a break in between takes, something like that. And he would often see her just sitting off in a corner somewhere by herself, just reading a book or kind of like lost in thought. And he said in an interview a little bit later on, he said, I quote, I didn't want to disturb her, but I was really dying inside to know what she was thinking about. And of course, at this point, he had never really encountered anyone quite like Tracy, especially not in Hollywood. When you have all of these kind of like Hollywood types, right? The stereotypical Hollywood type is a little self-absorbed. You have to be in order to be an actor. A little bit self-absorbed, a little bit cocky, and she was so different. Michael had no idea what to do with himself. He was so, almost like I said, mesmerized by her. He didn't quite know what to do with himself. Now, of course, I commend them so much because Michael, I mean, I think it says a lot about his character as well. Because Michael didn't try to go after her. He knew that she was in a relationship, so he just kind of loved her from afar. And he hoped and he prayed that at some point in the future, the stars would align and he would get to shoot a shot at her. Now, luckily for Michael, this chance would come sooner than he thought. So they only worked for a little while on Family Ties together, and then after that, serendipity comes into play again, and they end up getting cast in Bright Lights, Big City together. And again, they play love interests in that as well. And he's like, Michael is jumping for joy. Now, at this point, they're both single, and the very second that Michael finds out that she is no longer with Kevin, he's getting a plan together. He is trying to figure out how to ask her out without seeming insensitive. He said, it was like with the minute I found out that she was single, that they had broken up, he was like, that's too bad. Where's the phone? He was literally chomping at the bit to get to pick up the phone and call her and ask her out. Now, like I said, at this point, Tracy wasn't super impressed with Michael. And the reason being is because, like I said, Michael, pompous, cocky, but he was also kind of a douche. And I hate to say it, but you know, one of those guys who just like wants to be funny at any cost, right? So back in the day when they were working on Family Ties together, Michael had just kind of like picked on her a little bit, and he had kind of called her out. So one day they're filming and they break for lunch. So they all go off and they do their own thing. They go eat lunch and they come back and they pick up right where they left off. Now, the very second that Tracy delivers her first line, Michael catches the slightest whiff of the hint of garlic, and he sees an opportunity to kind of make fun of her a little bit, kind of make a joke at her expense. And he says, what does he say? Quote, he said, "Whoa, you have a little scampi for lunch there, babe?" Like, and I can just imagine this super douchey, kind of like full of himself Michael J. Fox say that exact line, and just kind of like wanting to look at him and slap him across the face. Like, who does that, really? Now, he honestly was just trying to make a joke, but it was also kind of a shot at her, because it is super, super rude to point out that somebody's voice stinks. And it wasn't even that her voice stunk. He caught a slight whiff of garlic and decided that he just wanted to make fun of her a little bit. Now, anyone else, had he said this to anyone else, they would have just laughed along and went with it. But not Tracy, because like I said, she's spunky. She's got a little bit of a spark to her. And she fires right back at him. She calls him a butthole, and, you know, she's not really mad, right? She's just kind of like ribbing him back, but she calls him a butthole and tells him to shove it, right? So at this point, Michael, who is very much the star of the show, everybody kind of panders to him. Everybody is making sure that he is happy because, you know, he is the show at this point, basically. So he is not used to getting fired back at, right? So the minute she kind of like tells him to go screw himself, he's like, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He is just like instantly like, who is this person, right? Because he's just expecting her to kind of giggle it off and go away, walk away in shame. She does not do that, however. She fires right back at him, and he thinks she's genuinely PO'd about it because, again, he is not used to people giving back what, you know, what he gives. So he instantly is just like, who is this person? And he says in like multiple different interviews that was the exact point where he fell in love with her. He was like, yeah, I need this woman in my life. So because of that really terrible joke years before, now that it has come that she is single and he is single at the same time, they're working together, they have the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time together. Michael's real nervous. Michael is very, very nervous that joke is going to backfire and he's going to ask her out and she is just going to shoot him down immediately. However, he realizes that if he doesn't take the chance and at least ask, he will forever regret it. So he does. He picks up the phone and he asks her out on a date. Now, she accepts, of course, or else I wouldn't be telling you this story today. But she does so hesitantly. She just was like, all right, well, let's just see where it goes. She really didn't have any hopes for it at all whatsoever. But as they're working together, like I said, they're spending long periods of time together on set at a time, and they're getting the opportunity to really get to know each other, things like that. They fall in love madly, truly, deeply. Like, it is intense and it is immediate, and they pretty quickly realize that this was meant to be. She still kind of thinks that he's a little bit too cocky for his own good, but they continue to date, and the more time they spend together, the deeper Michael falls in love, and before you know it, she's kind of like leading him around like a little lovesick puppy dog. After that point, they work on the movie together. The movie comes out. It's actually it gets pretty good reviews. It's a resounding success, and they continue to date. They date for almost 2 years. That blush is so pigmented. They date for almost 2 years before they decide it is, you know, kind of time to take their relationship public. Now, of course, the media, press, people like that, they're not stupid. They know that something possibly was going on. Of course, it just hadn't been substantiated yet. So they take the opportunity and they walk their first red carpet together as a couple. They decide to make their relationship public knowledge on September 20th, 1987, after nearly 2 years of being together. They walked their first red carpet together as a couple at the 39th Annual Emmy Awards. That night, Michael actually won. He won the Emmy for lead actor in a comedy series for, of course, Family Ties. And then at that point, Michael already knew that Tracy was the one. He already knows at this point that Tracy is going to be his forever. They've been together for 2 years at this point. It has been the best 2 years of his life. He genuinely cannot see himself with anyone else. And he already knows at this point that he's going to propose. He just doesn't know when, and he doesn't know how. They're trying to keep as much of their relationship for themselves as they possibly can. And because Michael is so popular at this point in time, it's really difficult. The paparazzi are kind of hounding them day and night, and especially once they get whiff of the fact that he is in a committed relationship, they kind of do a little bit of digging, and they kind of realize that they've probably, they worked together 2 years ago. They've probably been together for at least 2 years at this point. And then the media realizes that a proposal, if they're still together, a proposal is probably soon to come. So the media start to intensely hound both Michael and Tracy, and this POs Michael off to no end, because Tracy wants to keep it to herself just a little bit. Michael wants to keep it to himself. Like, they share so much with the public that you can't really blame them if they want to keep their, relationship just a little bit to themselves. However, no such luck. Michael said in a quote, he said, "The toughest part was trying to figure out when to get married, and then to figure out how to keep everybody else from finding out. The only thing they wanted was to be able to have a cute, quiet little wedding ceremony with the people they loved most in the world, without having the media all over the place, just kind of mucking up the day and ruining it all, right?" So, December 26th, 1987, Michael he actually does it. He gets down on one knee and he proposes to Tracy. After that, they had to figure out, they had to start planning the wedding. They had to keep everything like they had to play it close to the vest, trying to make sure that they could have a nice private wedding ceremony. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen for them the way that they want it to. Now, like I said, the way that the media had treated them during the wedding really kind of ticked Michael off, honestly, because when they couldn't get into the wedding and when they couldn't get pictures and things like that, they really kind of crucified both Michael and Tracy. They really crucified them both in the media. Like, they printed just kind of like scandal, just trying to capitalize on their wedding by any means necessary. And in order to do that, because they didn't have anything positive to report, they started to report negative things. Now, because of this, Michael decides he needs to set the record straight. So, with the help of Tracy's brother, Michael Pollan, he writes an essay of sorts and actually has it published in Esquire magazine, kind of setting the record straight and, telling people, like, listen, that isn't what happened. This is what really happened, and we're not the bad guys for just wanting to be able to enjoy our wedding day. Michael and Tracy got married on July 16th, 1988 in Woodstock, Vermont. They had said that they wanted to have their wedding as far away from New York as they possibly could, and the farthest they could get was Vermont. And in all actuality, it's a pretty good distance away. Y'all, they did this, they played this so close, like, they kept it so far under wraps. They were so careful, and somehow, the paparazzi ended up finding out about it anyway, and when I tell you this peeved Michael and Tracy off to no end, they were both really upset about it. They initially wanted a very private ceremony, but of course, somehow, the paparazzi found out about it, and they showed up in droves. And they turned this super quiet, sleepy little Vermont town into a media circus. There were people, because of course they didn't know the actual, exact venue. They just had, a general location. So you have the media showing up throughout the entire week, right? Trying to figure out where and when the wedding is going to take place. Now, because of this, Michael and Tracy ended up having to hire extra security. They had to go into, security lockdowns, things like that, just really trying to maintain some semblance of a normal wedding day, something even closely resembling some kind of privacy. So they hire extra security. They go in, nobody's allowed in or out. The kids aren't allowed to go outside and run and play. It's a big whole giant kerfuffle. Now, happily, the wedding did go off without a hitch. Now, while it was absolute chaos, a media circus outside, inside, they were having the time of their lives. Michael said in a quote, he said, "It was nuts. Inside, it was like anybody else's wedding. It was pretty much a house party. We rolled back the rugs and danced the night away. We had everyone that we loved in a 1-acre area. But you could hear 5 planes flying overhead, trying to get pictures of the church." He said, "We couldn't let the kids run down the street because there were people with cameras there grabbing them and scaring them. And it's just got to be a little bit miserable, and of course, it's kind of the price you pay for fame and fortune things like that. Like if you're famous, you kind of have to understand that paparazzi is going to be a little bit of an issue. But I do feel so bad for them. Like your wedding day, I think, is almost a sacred thing, and you should be able to enjoy your wedding day without worrying about hiding from paparazzi, things like that. So it was just all in all a really awful kind of situation. Fortunately, they were able to kind of seclude themselves a little bit away from it. And even though they were aware of what was happening outside, they were able to stay in their own little bubble of happiness. And as long as they were inside the church, everything was just like hunky-dory. Now, despite all of the chaos outside, Michael and Tracy said I do in an interfaith, because remember, she's Jewish, in an interfaith ceremony attended by Tracy's parents, her brother Michael, and 2 bridesmaids. And then on Michael's side, his parents were present, and then his 4 siblings. He has 4 siblings, by the way, from Vancouver. And then other guests of note included Woody Harrelson, who is one of Michael's very best friends. Also, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. They were a couple at this point in time. And I've also spoken about Meg and Dennis in another True Love Tuesday. If you are interested, I'll have that linked in the description box. That was a really good one. Made me really dislike Dennis Quaid, though. Try not to judge, but he doesn't seem like a really awesome kind of person. Anyway, so not a gigantic wedding, but there were some key people there. They had their parents and their siblings and just a couple of their very closest friends present. Now, they wasted absolutely no time starting a family after they got married. Now, Michael was so excited to be a dad. Now, he had a great childhood. Like I said, Michael's life till this point has been charmed. He's literally been smooth sailing like forever. He's just had a really, really great life. His dad was a really fantastic guy, and he could not wait to be the same kind of dad that his was, right? So very excited to become a parent, and they wasted no time. A little bit after a year after they got married, they welcomed their first beautiful baby into the world. They actually had a son. They had a son named Sam Michael on May 30th, 1989. Now, luckily for Tracy, both the pregnancy and the delivery were like a breeze. She does so well with pregnancy, which goes on to explain why she had 3 more children. They ended up having 4 children in total. And again, Michael comes from a really big family. He's got 4 siblings. So of course he wanted a big family of his own as well. And she just a breeze through the pregnancy. And the entire time, Michael is stoked. He is reading every baby book that's ever been printed. I mean, it's literally all that he can talk about. Woody Harrelson, like I said, is one of his best friends. Woody actually went on in a statement, and he said he had a literal library in his house. Just stacks of books everywhere. He would talk about the baby and how excited he was. Now, I knew he was going to be an amazing father just because of how excited he was. It just consumed him at all hours. And then, of course, as soon as the baby actually arrives, Michael and Tracy are on cloud 9. They are in newlywed bliss, new family nirvana. Everything is going exactly according to plan, and life couldn't get any better. Now, I know I've said it a million times at this point, but it bears repeating. Up until this point, Michael has led a charmed life. He has never really had to struggle for anything. He has never really had to overcome any ginormous mountain. He's never really had to experience dread in any way. He's just had a really smooth, very easy kind of life. Now, that doesn't make him a bad person, and it doesn't make him deserving of what happens next. It just means that it made what happens next that much more awful, honestly. Very, very ill-prepared to handle this awful thing that happens to him, right? So, in 1991, Michael was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and this is a truly, truly awful, awful disease. My grandmother had this disease. She actually just passed away due to it. So this story is quite close to my heart. but it's an awful disease. It robs a person of their mind. It robs them of their ability to control their body. It's an awful, debilitating disease. Now, the textbook definition of it is an incurable degenerative condition of the central nervous system that affects motor function over time. Now, he was only 29 years at the time of his diagnosis in 1991. That is really, really young to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Usually, people get diagnosed when they're in their early 50s or late 50s, early 60s. It's usually the time of general diagnosis. Now, he was diagnosed, like I said, very, very young. He's only 29. He's not even 30 years old yet. And this rocks him to his core like it would anyone else. Now, he was assured by doctors that it would be years and years before it became debilitating and that he would still be able to function and all the things like that. But still, just knowing, like, it's like having an angry cloud looming over your head. Like, you know it's coming. It's like if someone were to tell you the exact date of your death. Like, it's just an awful, like, you know what I mean? It's not a good thing. And Michael doesn't take it well. I don't think anybody would take it well. He kind of shuts down a little bit. Now, for all intents and purposes, and for what he shows to the world, he doesn't let it slow him down. He continues to live his life. Him and Tracy, they end up getting pregnant again, and they have their next 2 children, a set of twins, this time a set of girls. They have a set of twin girls named Akina Kathleen and Skylar Francis. They have them on February 15th, 1995. So 4 years after his diagnosis, they have their 2nd and 3rd children, and they have them in New York City. And like I said, by all intents and purposes, life is going beautifully. Now, Michael has decided to keep his diagnosis to himself. He has decided not to tell the press or his employers anything like that. First of all, because he just doesn't know how to handle it. He's just trying to ignore it a little bit. But second of all, he's afraid of how it will affect his career. He is afraid that it will affect, you know, his hireability, things like that, right? And he needs to make as much money at this point as he can because he knows that there is now a time limit on his career. So he goes into overdrive. He starts making money. He starts making moves, really trying to prepare for a time when he might not be able to take care of his family the exact same way that he can right now. And I mean, like, time just kind of goes on, but over time his illness does get worse. It does progress. And then 7 years after his diagnosis, he has kind of finally had enough. At this point, the media have kind of picked up on the fact that something isn't quite right with him. They've noticed the tremors. Michael said that it started, like, when he went to the doctor, the reason he went to the doctor was when he was filming, what was it? Bright Lights? No, it was Doc Hollywood. When he was filming Doc Hollywood, he said he noticed a twitch in his pinky, and from then it just kind of like grew exponentially. Now, his symptoms did come on fairly quickly. They progressed fairly quickly. Usually it takes years and years and years for the disease to progress. But unfortunately, in Michael's case, they progressed pretty quickly, and 7 years in, he had a definite tremor. You could definitely see that he was shaky, things like that. Now, because of this, the media picked up on it, and they kind of and of course, Michael wasn't telling anybody what was going on. He was not being an open person about it, which is his right. He doesn't have to be. But the media, they're kind of demanding to know what's going on. And because he's not saying anything, they start to bully him. Now, the media, the paparazzi, are sometimes, they're just kind of buttholes, quite honestly. And they were not kind to Michael in this situation at all. They started bullying him. They would catch him out and they'd be like, "What's the matter with you?" Things like that. And Michael it just all got to be too much, and he just decided that he was going to honestly take a little bit of his power back, and he was just going to confront the situation head on. So he makes a statement. He makes an announcement, and he tells the world that he is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he's basically ready to just bite the bullet. Like I said, he is terrified that this is going to affect his career. He is terrified that this is going to affect, you know, his ability to make money and provide for his family, things like that. And he's basically just scared that people are just going to turn on him, and he's going to lose all of his friends. He's going to lose his status, and, you know, just all kinds of awful, awful things. To Michael's surprise, everybody is so incredibly supportive. Everybody responds with acceptance and interest and a desire to help. Like, everybody's like, is there a cure? How do we fix this? Like how do we make this better, right? And Michael, who during all of this time, all of this 7 years, has been struggling silently, knowing that there's no cure, knowing that things are just going to get worse for him, he just kind of let himself get sucked into a black hole of sorts. And when he kind of like comes free, when he tells the world his deepest, darkest secret, the relief that he feels is so wonderful. But on top of that, instead of getting the response that he expected, he is greeted with nothing but positivity. And this helps turn his life around like 360 degrees. It is a big, big change. And at this point, Michael understands that he is in a very privileged position, because not only is he surrounded by incredibly loving and caring people who want to help, but he also has a voice. He is a celebrity. He has, he has access to quite a bit of money. And he, not only that, but he struggles with this incurable disease that doesn't get enough attention, that doesn't get enough research, and he decides that he is going to become this disease's champion. He is going to be a champion for the cure. Like, he is bound and determined to find a cure for Parkinson's. And up until this point, like, he really had no purpose. So this gives him a purpose. This gives him not only something to focus on, but something to look forward to as well. It is a very small but definite ray of hope in an otherwise bleak future for him, right? So he dives headfirst into this, and he becomes a champion for Parkinson's. And to this day, he has raised over $1 billion for Parkinson's research and advancement, which is $1 billion. That's astounding. In May of 2000, Michael launched the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. A few months prior, he had announced that he would be leaving the current TV show that he was working on, Spin City, to focus on his family and the foundation, stating that his energy would be better spent with his family and working toward a cure for Parkinson's disease. Now, like I said, to this day, at this point in time, as I am filming this, Michael has raised over $1 billion in funds for research for a cure for Parkinson's disease, which is, that's just, I mean, it is so noble. It is so noble. He really is the champion when it comes to, to Parkinson's disease. He really has made it his life's mission to get as much recognition and as much work done as he can when it comes to that disease. And it is so commendable. I think he's kind of amazing for it. Now, Tracy and Michael decided that their family wasn't quite big enough yet, and they decided that they needed one more baby to love. They needed one more final addition to their family. So, on November 5th, 2001, they welcomed their last and final child, another daughter, this time named Esme Annabelle. Their names, the names that they picked for their children, I think are just absolutely precious. I love each and every one of them. But this is baby number 3 or 4? Baby number 4. This is baby number 4. There are now a family of 6. Their family is complete. And even though Michael has, had to overcome some really awful things, their life is absolutely, it's the best that they could have ever even hoped for at this point. Now, when it comes to his disease, especially in the earlier days of his diagnosis and things like that, Michael, like I said earlier, he had a really difficult time coping with it just in general. And he also is a fairly private person as well. So when it came to handling his diagnosis, he really didn't feel like he had anybody that he could turn to. He really didn't feel, he just basically did not have the skills to cope with it. So he opened up in an interview with, I'm not sure with who, but he opened up in an interview years later, and he finally admitted that how badly he had actually handled the initial diagnosis. He has said that if it weren't for Tracy, he probably would have drank himself to unalived. He basically dove into a bottle and stayed there for a good year and a half. Didn't come up to breathe, didn't come up to eat or shower. He basically just hid in the alcohol. Now, before this point, he had been a little bit of a drinker, but it had just been socially. But when he got the diagnosis, he turned to alcohol as the answer to his problems, and just stayed there. He just basically had a year-long pity party, and you know, he was allowed to do that. But thank the good Lord for his wife, because she finally just got to a point where enough was enough. Like, you're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to grieve, and you know, just deal with it. You know, you're allowed to pity yourself just for a little bit. But too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right? And she was like, you're done. She was like, is this really who you want to be? Is this what you want the rest of your life to be? Every day that you sit here drunk off your mind, wasting your life away, is a day that you've wasted. A healthy day that you've wasted. Like, you're acting like your life is already over. It's not. Get up and do something about it. And he said because of her, of course, and because of her pushing him, he actually got up, he went and he joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and basically just got his life back on track, got his stuff together, and was able to accomplish some really fantastic things. Since then, things have gotten exponentially better. Their kids have grown, they have fled the nest, and they are now just kind of like getting to know each other once again and enjoying spending time together uninterrupted for the first time in a pretty long while. Guys, they just celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary, which is genuinely insane. And quite honestly, I wish them another 20. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's True Love Tuesday just as much as I enjoyed telling it to you. This is the finished look. Do we like it? Do we love it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, no filters, no fancy lighting. It is just me sitting in front of my camera telling you guys an epic love story. Hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. If you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up before you leave. And until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.